Hello, welcome to the Crypto with Kash Cast episode number 21. My name is Duncan Morland. As ever, I am your host, and I'm joined by Kashaya Abbasi. Hello, Kash.
Hey, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm okay. You look like you're in a villainous lair there. It's very dark and...
Yeah, it does actually look like that. Well, I'm not going to deny what it is.
Are you planning something evil? Whereas I've just got my Hoover in the background, as every influencer should.
Is it a good Hoover?
It is a pretty good Hoover. I was given it by my parents, and it is a good Hoover because I'm too cheap to splash out.
I came across this video which said Hoovers back in the day were much stronger, but now due to regulation or whatnot, they've made them weaker. So this guy went online and looked for a really vintage Hoover, which is stronger than anything that exists on the market today, and it works really well, so well that I think it can pick up flour or whatever things that you leave underneath carpets from the other side, which is crazy. So there's some bit of knowledge there.
And now he doesn't have a house because he accidentally hoovered it up along with his family.
There we go.
So, be careful if you're buying a vintage Hoover. How are you doing, Kash?
Yeah, man, all good. Just to be honest, I'm melting.
Yeah,
so the day we're recording this, it's around 31 degrees right now, and it's unbearable.
Yeah, it's really hot. And you're in London, so I'm guessing it's even hotter than down here because we've got the sea here to jump into. But
definitely. And as you can see, it's overcast outside as well. So there's a bit of sun, there's a bit of overcast. It's not a good mix.
No, perfect weather for planning evil things, though, in your lair.
100%, absolutely.
Have you been on the tube in this weather?
I have, and it's worse than you can imagine. What's the worst line? Is it Central Line or I think it is Central Line, isn't it?
Yes, some of them don't have air conditioning, do they? So it's just
and it goes up to like 36 degrees. It's awful.
Yeah, fun stuff. But
apparently you're not even allowed to transport cows when it's 36 degrees.
The cows on the tube or cows in general?
Cows in general. In whatever vehicle you use, I don't think they're allowed to be transported.
That's good. It sounds good.
The temperature inside is more than 36 degrees, but inside the tube we get higher than that. So cows are treated better than us.
Yeah, they're not forced to go into work. Cryptocurrency. That's what we're here to talk about today. The financial markets in general, and we've got maybe 5 different topics to talk about. The first is the inflation numbers that have come out today, I think, or yesterday. Is it today?
Yeah, no, it came out earlier today.
So I'm going to share my screen and then ask if you can talk us through what you have seen going on. Let's see if I can do this. Okie dokie. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Are you not seeing?
I'm just seeing a grey screen.
Okay, maybe this isn't working well.
But we can talk about it anyway. So
yeah, okay. Well, let's forget that, and you just talk us through it. So the headline I'm reading says U.S. inflation hit 9.1% in June, putting further pressure on the Fed.
Yeah, so that's the official data that's come out from the US government. CPI data has hit 9.1%. The expected levels were 8.8%. But again, inflation has exceeded all forecasts. And actually, the data came out exactly at 1:30 p.m. today. And the markets reacted instantly. Within minutes, the markets were down. All markets were down. And actually, it's climbed back up today. But, this data is quite concerning, because it shows that perhaps, the Federal Reserve needs to continue hiking rates to combat the inflation that's happening right now. The people that I follow on Twitter who speak on, inflation and the markets in general, they say that there's 100% chance of 2 more 0.75% interest rate hikes in the next 2 months.
100% chance.
Yeah, there's 100% chance that the next 2 times they'll go up by essentially 1.5% within the next 2 months.
But that still doesn't take us anywhere near 9% inflation, does it? So
not at all, no.
Yeah.
And this is, again, the highest levels it's been for 40, 50 years, if not more. So, but the thing is, when they say 9.1%, for example, everything that you see in the market, supermarkets, they've gone up by much more than 9.1%. These are just official statistics that they've carried out based on a basket of goods. But I'm sure, as you would have seen, everything's gone up by 40, 50%. Like, for example, the restaurant that just down my road, they were selling like kebabs for £5. It was always £5. It's been £5 for years, and now it's gone up to £7.
Yeah,
that's more than a 9.1% increase.
Yeah, and I think like we're seeing it in everyday stuff now, whereas sort of tail end of last year, beginning of this year, it was just the inflation numbers. But very quickly, people are seeing it in bills. People are, like you say, seeing it in food prices, seeing it just about everywhere, like rent and housing market,
fuel prices as well.
Yeah, fuel prices. So it's not just a number anymore. In the Bank of England and the Fed's kind of stat sheets, it's very much like real for people, which is why it's having that effect. In the crypto markets, I think. Yeah.
I mean, there is, I guess, some good news out of this. Joe Biden was just saying earlier today how fuel prices have actually fallen over the past 30 days. So there is speculation that perhaps this data that's come out today may be the peak, and we may see a gradual decrease over the next couple of months. But as long as the war in Ukraine is still ongoing, and I don't really see how. I'm concerned about how long it's going to take before inflation goes back down to manageable levels, because right now it seems to be out of control, despite what politicians would have us believe.
Yeah, I think also it's hard to. I think it's one of those things that's hard to say why it's up so high, or there's probably multiple contributing factors. Like people talked about money supply over the last couple of years, and like the increase in money supply. New money being printed.
Yeah,
I mean, there's all kinds of different arguments of what kind of effect that has on markets. But like you say, like the war in Ukraine, I guess the natural cycles of markets and inflation as well, like in economies and global economies, the pandemic, like there's all these contributing factors. And like, I don't know, in my experience, economists and financial experts aren't great at, being able to say why things are happening. Maybe in retrospect, but not in.
It's not just one reason. It's, as you said, it's a multifaceted problem. There's loads of things happening at the same time that's accumulated to this.
Yeah.
The issue is that, it's once it happens, it's difficult to control, even if you saw it coming, because it's difficult to turn back time. It's impossible to go back and just undo the mistakes that you've made. So we'll have to see what happens.
Do you have any advice for people, or guidelines, or thoughts on what people can do with their money in these periods of time? Or is it, maybe with crypto specifically, but also generally in investing, I guess? What's your kind of thoughts?
I think it's good to keep up with the scheduled dates that this sort of data is announced. For example, in our Telegram group, I announced that at 1:30 p.m. today that this data is going to come out. So if you have trades, it's good to, be careful. Maybe remove any sort of trades that you think are too risky right now, because this is going to instantly affect the markets, and it did. And there's tools online. You can search economic calendar on Google, and it shows you a list of all the different factors, and all the different data that's going to be released over the next couple of days and weeks, and you can plan accordingly.
Yeah, maybe if you're buying cheap crypto at the moment, you can maybe you can use these announcements as opportunities, or just steer clear of the markets in these periods. It's a bit like when companies announce their earnings. I know with a lot of trading strategies for people I write for, they will advise to stay out of the markets during earnings season, unless it's like a strategy that tries to take advantage of earnings, because if something unexpected happens, then the predictability of the markets is not
and it's good to stay up to date with this sort of information, the Bank of America just announced that they believe America is going to go into a recession by Q3 of this year, and it's going to continue till Q2 perhaps, or Q1, Q2.
More positive news. That's good.
Yeah, but the thing is, as you said, the markets work in cycles. I think since 1815, for example, over the past 100 and so, more than 100 years, there's been over 44 recessions.
Yeah.
And just until recently, the markets have been going up, and then they go down, and they go back higher.
Yeah.
On average, I think we have a recession every 10 to 12 years. It's now been 14 years that we haven't had a recession. So perhaps we are overdue for one. But, if you are dollar cost averaging, you can take advantage of these sort of prices.
So item number 2 on our talking agenda today is the euro has fallen to parity with the dollar, which means you can swap €1 for $1 and $1 for €1. What does this mean? Does it mean we can just get rid of, or can we merge euros and dollars and just have one currency? What's going on here?
I think it means we're going to see a lot more Americans traveling to Europe.
Yeah.
But, I think the USD is actually at its highest level against the euro for over, for nearly 20 years, if not more. So, it just shows that a lot of people are concerned about the ongoing things happening in Europe at the moment. And a lot of people are selling their stocks, selling their crypto, and perhaps other assets into the dollar, which is showing great strength right now, And
again, this is like the war in Ukraine having a knock-on effect to sort of financial stability around Europe, I guess. Yeah. So I guess that's, if you're investing in European stocks or that kind of thing, then that's something to be aware of, or if you're going on holiday.
Yeah.
Not to trivialize what's going on in Ukraine.
Of course.
So we've got some more positive news on the crypto front, or stuff that I think is interesting. And there's sort of 3 different pieces of news. The first is crypto funds buying up crypto in the hundreds of millions. So the headline I've got here, which you shared in the Telegram chat, is Multicoin Capital announces new 430 million venture fund. So they're putting another 430 million into cryptocurrencies during this down market. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, Multicoin Capital, they're actually a very known firm within crypto. They are actually large investors in Solana and Helium, which have done very well over the past year or so. And as you mentioned, they've announced the new $430 million venture fund. So they're not really worried about the downturn that we're seeing at the moment. And instead, they're using this opportunity to buy coins while they're still cheap. That's not to say the markets aren't going to go. There's no chance that they're going to go lower, or if the markets are going to turn around right now. It's just that they see an opportunity and they're taking it to buy coins that are now much cheaper than they were perhaps 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, and 2 coins they've mentioned, and they said they're excited about them because they fit the proof of physical work, their proof of physical work projects. And one is Helium, which I think we've talked about in the past, and the other is Hive Mapper. I've not heard of Hive Mapper, so could you just give people an overview of what Helium is and what Hive Mapper is as well, if you know about it?
Yeah, essentially Helium is a sort of hotspot network that you can set up. It's essentially like a Wi-Fi box that you can set up at home, and it just generates cryptocurrency for you. It allows Internet of devices to communicate with one another using your network. A lot of people have actually bought one of these devices a couple of months ago, and I've just left it in one of the rooms, and it's just generating money. I haven't checked it for a while, but I just check it every so often. And, the cryptocurrency HNT, that's what it generates. It's just going up over time. Hive Mapper, I've actually not heard about myself, but it says it essentially interested in digital mapping network. So it's the same sort of thing. They're both built on top of Helium. They're both built on top of Solana, which is very interesting. Solana is, a cheaper and faster alternative to Ethereum.
Right, I didn't realize helium was built on Solana. That's interesting. Yeah, like even I think when we talked about it before, I said even here, like I live in a remote, well, not remote. I live in a small town in Devon, and there's a
Yeah,
couple of helium network kind of hubs here as well that somebody's set up. I don't know how much money they're making, but so yeah, so it's always interesting to see what the big funds are doing and when they're allocating money into crypto. I remember during the last big down market, like post 2018, 2019, what's it called? Grayscale, one of the big crypto funds, was buying up huge amounts of crypto on behalf of institutional investors. There was a chart at the time showing that like institutional money going into crypto was going up and up and up. And meanwhile, all the headlines were institutional figureheads talking crypto down.
yeah,
So it is always interesting to see what the big money is doing, because they are following that kind of classic buy when markets are down.
yeah,
Obviously, like we saw 3 Arrows Capital get annihilated essentially because they were highly leveraged. Is that right? So it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, they owned around $18 billion worth of crypto assets, and now they've been liquidated. And there's speculation that they actually owe over $1 billion now to people they've borrowed money from.
Yeah.
So it's a very dangerous situation right now, because a lot of these companies who've lent out money, thinking Three Arrows Capital know what they're doing, are now out of hundreds of millions of dollars. So but what's happened is other members within crypto, such as Sam Bankman-Fried, has actually come in and to try and rescue some of these companies which are short on cash because of the money that they've lent out. Otherwise, I think we would have seen a lot more carnage.
Yeah, I guess it's essentially the same kind of thing we saw in 2008 with traditional banks, where they're like highly leveraged, essentially, like the money they have on hand for a crisis isn't there. They've just sort of been lending out money to each other that they didn't have, and then when sort of markets crash and suddenly everybody comes calling for what they're owed, they were unable to pay, which is what causes a crisis. So like firms that aren't highly leveraged probably a lot better off, survive these kind of downturns, and probably other ones we want to keep following what they're doing.
Yeah,
it
for
sounds
sure.
like
I mean,
multi-coin
Michael
capitalism.
Saylor, exactly, like Michael Saylor, for example, he currently owns around $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. At the peak, it was worth $6 billion, and now that it's fallen, he's actually down $1 billion. And he's, instead of like panicking, he's buying more. He just bought another $10 million worth of Bitcoin the other day, because they're focused on the long term, as are we.
Yeah, he's gonna have to change his name to Satoshi soon, I think.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think he's the largest owner of Bitcoin as it stands.
Yeah, that's quite crazy, actually. Okay, so the next headline I've got here, which you shared in the Telegram group, is Shanghai allocates 1.5 billion to Metaverse Development Fund. So could you talk us through what's happening here?
Yes, so there's this sort of belief that China is very anti-crypto, but some venture firms, crypto venture firms that actually work and live within China have actually said, crypto activity is huge. It is still ongoing. They've banned mining, but the other side of crypto still persists within the country. So, as you said, China's allocated $1.5 billion to the metaverse, and in the metaverse, a lot of these projects will actually be built on top of the blockchain. So they are supporting the blockchain and the development of it, and they're looking to invest a significant amount of money to develop that. So it'll be interesting what happens. As you know, I'm quite big on the metaverse. I enjoy it. I have a VR headset myself, and I definitely see the future. I definitely see where this space is going, and this sort of news is very exciting to see.
Yeah, and obviously, like Mark Zuckerberg has completely repositioned Facebook, which is now Meta. to try and take advantage of the metaverse. So he obviously thinks it's going to be huge as well. It's interesting reading that article that they're saying that the Shanghai financing is quite structured, that it's going into creating 10 leading companies and 100 small-sized firms that will specialize in benchmarking products and services. So it's quite like a, almost sort of investing 1.5 billion to create an industry, to structurally create, all these, like the blue chips of the metaverse, and then 100 smaller cap companies. So they have a kind of leading, I don't know, stock market space. Well, it wouldn't be stock market. Well, I guess it could be stock market as well as crypto.
Yeah.
These companies are public.
I mean, in some ways, I feel like Asia is ahead of maybe the West in terms of technological advancements when it comes to these sort of things. For example, when I was in Thailand, in Bangkok, there were these sort of arcades where you could just try on these headsets, and they would transport you to different worlds. You'd be fighting or sword fighting different characters. It's very interesting, and that's very normal. And that's something that I'm only starting to see now. In the UK, but I believe this sort of thing has existed in Thailand and China and Japan and South Korea for many years now.
I think when you there is a lot of money. I think we talked about this before. Like when you look at in the gaming space, there's a lot of kind of what's the word, like historic kind of examples of things doing similar business models, similar kind of experiments to metaverse stuff. I mean, I think in general the gaming space seems to hate the idea of NFTs, but I'd say the metaverse, or a kind of shared digital like world space, whatever, is a bit different. It doesn't have to. It's not necessarily like synonymous with NFTs. You can kind of like separate those two things. Also, in the news. Crypto news, LimeWire. You posted this in the chat earlier, and I think I used this when I was younger, but maybe not. If it's a service to download things illegally, then I definitely didn't use it. Yeah, but it sounds very familiar.
If I recall correctly, people back in the day used LimeWire to download games, music, videos. I think it came out before YouTube, if I remember correctly. So people were just using it to essentially send videos over the internet to people all over the world. A lot of the time, it was used as a platform for illegally sharing digital files, and a lot of people were nervous or didn't want to announce that that they've used the platform before because of the illegal element of it. But now they've actually come back and actually launched an NFT marketplace. And what's interesting is that in the video that they posted, they're playing music by Soulja Boy in the background. So Soulja Boy is a rapper who used LimeWire to promote his own music. So what he would do is he would actually find out what's the most popular song out at the moment. He would publish his own music with the title of the most famous song, so that when people were downloading other people's music, it was actually his music that they were listening to, and that's actually how he became popular.
That's really funny. So I also saw that GameStop launched its NFT marketplace this week as well, I think. So now
I think it came out the other day. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I did hear that it's out now.
Yeah, so there's the biggest one is probably OpenSea, is that right?
Yeah.
So there's quite a few. Sorry, I'm getting cramp in my leg, which is not good. So there's quite a few competing NFT marketplaces now, I guess, isn't there? On different blockchains. Yeah. What do you think makes a kind of good NFT marketplace, or is going to make one kind of lead the pack?
I think exclusivity, in the sense that if, for example, Super Mario announces an official NFT, and if they choose to only release it on a certain platform, then a lot of Super Mario fans are going to go to that specific platform because that's the only place they can get it from. OpenSea is the leading one at the moment. It's just got the most volume. It's got the most number of users. Solana is doing very well with, Solana's recently been added to OpenSea as well. So we'll have to see what happens. There's actually quite a few different NFT marketplaces on Solana now. So there's Solana Art, there's Magic Eden, and they're doing quite well. I think Magic Eden was actually valued at over $1 billion recently, which is huge, and it's set up by a guy who, up until a few years ago, was living on a boat. So he's done very well to get his product where it is now.
It's interesting that it seems like the platforms are doing well themselves, because the online sentiment to me on social media around NFTs seems to be at an all-time low, basically.
Yeah,
it's almost like the ICO fallout in 2017, where like ICOs were the big new crypto thing, and then a lot of them were scams and just turned out to be, like a waste of money type of thing.
There definitely was NFT mania a couple months ago. We've seen hundreds of new NFT launches every single day, and each one was getting sold out, and they were reselling for 10 times, 20 times more than what they were initially bought for. But we're seeing less activity within the NFT space, but it's still ongoing. If you look at OpenSea, because it's all on the blockchain, it's still generating hundreds of millions, within a month. Every month is still doing significant amounts of volume. It's just at a lower level than what it was before.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how NFTs come back in the next bull market, whether they look, whether the format that they're in now is what carries on and people are still buying and selling them, whether they're more tightly tied to like the metaverse and, gaming and stuff like that, or some of those other use cases like for for gig tickets and stuff like that actually kind of manifest. I have one final question for you. Is there anything that you've been looking at that you're excited about in the crypto space recently, or anything you've seen?
Not right now. Not anything that comes to mind. Just recently, I've been looking at the prices. They have stabilized somewhat, but there is the risk that if there is an escalation with the war, and if the Federal Reserve is not able to fully control the effects of inflation, then prices may go lower. Right now Bitcoin is trading at around 19,000. There's another large support level at 14,000, and of course another significant one at the $10,000 level. A lot of people don't believe that we may go that low, or even if we do, it'll be for like a split second before it bounces right back up. But we're keeping an open mind, and we'll continue dollar cost averaging regardless of price.
Yeah, I imagine also like the volume of bigger money going into crypto now, like we just talked about, 430 million was the number for multi-coin capital.
Yeah,
that was the levels of institutional investment weren't that high in the previous down market. Whether, to me, that suggests that like it keep prices more buoyant, but then we are sitting at like 20k for Bitcoin or whatever it is. So it's
there's still significant amounts of money being raised within the crypto space. It's interesting to see, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Kash.
Awesome.
And
thank you very much.
Don't go taking cows onto the tube and overheating or anything crazy like that.
I'll remember your words. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my advice to everyone today. Don't take cows on the London Underground.
Noted.
Unless you're willing to deal with the consequences. Thank you for listening. If you have listened to this and stuck with us to the end, if you've got any questions for us, then feel free to stick them under the YouTube video in the comments, and we'll try and talk about any topics or whatever you want us to talk about. We appreciate any subscribes and likes, and thank you again, Kash, and thank you everyone for listening. And we'll say goodbye until next time. Need a catchphrase.
Thanks for your time. Take care and all the best.
There you go. That's a nice catchphrase. It's a very pleasant one. Okay. Goodbye.